here, besides me rambling on for hours, is we read philosophy papers. So this is called Possible Girls by Neil Sinhababu. I'm sorry if I screw up your name. And it's in Pacific Philosophical Quarterly. Now, I didn't know Pacific Philosophical Quarterly published shorter papers. So I like to write shorter papers. So I'm going to consider sending them stuff because I didn't think they did. Most of the stuff I've read in Pacific Philosophical Quarterly has been very long. But this is called Possible Girls, and we're going to go check it out. And as always, if you are here in chat at the end of the paper, we rate the paper using emotes. We have an emote review, and everyone here is welcome to review. So stick around, and we'll see how this goes. And as always, let me know. I will try to explain it as best I can. Here we are. David Lewis famously holds that reality consists not only of our own universe, but also countless other universes as real as our own. Okay, so David Lewis was a very, very important philosopher, big name. I think this is modal realism. Yeah. So I don't think this is talking about physics possible worlds. This is talking about logical possible worlds. Some philosophers hold that all the different logical possibilities exist as possible worlds in a real sense, just like in multiple worlds in physics, all the different like physical realities exist. So this is a huge number of possible worlds because not only do all the physical possible worlds exist, but all the logically different ones exist too, which is a like ungodly. It doesn't even make sense. There's just like any logical difference counts as a possible world. So this is a multiplying entities to like infinity, billion infinities, like some giant infinity. But like this makes your theories work out. So yeah. So there are countless other universes. And so you wonder why I'm permissive of the physicists saying multiple worlds, because the philosophers are just as bad. This is called, I saw it up here, modal realism. So I knew where we were going. According to Lewis modal realism, every possible way that a universe could be is instantiated by one of these possible worlds. So that means not only is it all the physical possible worlds, but all the different possible worlds that have different initial conditions. So we've got an infinite number of possible universes with slightly different initial conditions. So whatever our possible universe here, and then we split off into multiple worlds. Well, there's infinitely other ones because they all the ones with slightly different laws of nature, all of those are logically possible worlds too. So we've got huge numbers of possible worlds. Lewis calls our world the actual world, but actual signifies only that it is the universe he happens to inhabit. Yeah, so the actual world is the one you are at. So like whatever in philosophy, when you're saying actual world in terms of modal reality, that just means wherever you are at. It's a indexical to your location is what actual means. Okay, just these are all technically things. Oh, he regards actual as an indexical, like I here. Sorry, I should have just read the next sentence. A resident of another world could use it to refer to her world. Possible indicates some world that the speaker might or might not inhabit. The reason we never meet the residents of other worlds is that they're as stuck in their world as we are in ours. Their worlds and ours aren't spatio-temporally or causally connected. Yeah, so same shit as the physicists are doing, but worse. The philosophers are worse. Yeah. Unreal Brian says a quick Google search tells you quite a bit. Are you sure that was Google that you were searching about boobs? Yeah. Okay. The ability to causally interact with your partner is important to many aspects of happy romantic relationships. Wow, that was not the sentence I was expecting after talking about modal realism. But not to all of them. It's quite pleasant simply to know that your partner loves you and appreciates being loved by you. A loving relationship with a faraway person can enhance one's self-esteem and turn loneliness into contentment. I love you, chat, just so you know. I love all of you. As a lonely philosopher, I've come to wonder, if modal realism is true, can I have a loving relationship with someone from another possible world? This is, wow, sad boy philosophy. Yeah, sad boy philosophy right here. You want to talk about fucking sad boy philosophy? Holy fuck. This is like the most like sad boy philosophy I've ever heard. As a lonely philosopher, I've come to wonder if modal realism is true, can I have a loving relationship with someone from another possible world? This is some shit where you have no causal interaction with them. So you're just making them up. This is like, can I have a loving relationship with my imaginary girlfriend? That's literally what the fuck is being asked here. The internet you read for the articles, whoa, not the same? No, not the same. Aristotle, modal realism is so fucking stupid. It was a heuristic that philosophers took literally. No, this is like, and you wonder why I'm permissive about the physicists with their multiple worlds. The philosophers are so much worse. And it's like, okay, but like, some people are just like, why wouldn't you call these things real? And I will, Aris is correct. It was used as a heuristic. It makes certain other theories that people really like work out very nicely. Because if you say, well, what are these logically possible worlds if they're not real worlds, you get into some sticky problems. Now, I don't like the reasons they're trying to say this, but like that's what happens. Yeah. Epic tits. Yeah, exactly, Inspector Diameter. You're right. Luke Rebel says, many philosophers are largely using possible worlds as a reasoning tool versus making empirical claims. Yeah. Yes. But again, there's a lot of analytic philosophers who really like using possible worlds to describe, truth theories, to describe semantics, the meanings. And so when you're doing it like to explain truth and like meaning, it becomes very convenient to say, well, look, when I say, there's a world where I pick up the pencil and another world where I didn't, well, what does it mean? Well, there is a possible world where I picked up the pencil and a possible world where I didn't. In the actual world, I picked up the pencil, but the actual world is just picking out the possible world where it actually where it did happen. And so since it did happen in that one, we're calling that one actual, but they both could have been actual. And in some sense, you want to be able to call them both real, even though one of them is the actual world. It could have just as easily been the other one. So I'm not 100% sure the reasoning there, but it makes everything very fucking convenient. A heuristic, really. Ivan says, no, in physics, we need the other worlds for a theory to work. I'm just telling you, same in philosophy, certain theories work a lot better if modal realism is true. So they're doing it the same. Is there a universe where you love yourself? I don't know. Is it essential that you don't? Because a lot of these modal realisms deal with essentiality. So if you are essentially non-self-loving, then in any universe where you do, then it would not be Viper's gratitude. Like, I'm not kidding. There's a lot of essentialist philosophy in this area, and so if you were defined not in that way, then no. I do not. Well, my mom was a social worker, so I did know some counselors. Yes. Okay, this paper will try to answer that question. Sad boy philosophy. Can I ask for referrals? I mean, the best thing to do is Aris actually has he's posted this link before. I don't know what it is, but Aris, you're right there. If you want to put the link for finding a therapist in chat, feel free to do so. Oh yeah, and Aris, congratulations on finishing your semester. Let me give Aris a shout out. If anyone here does not follow Aris, go immediately follow Aris if you like philosophical content. Aris generally does ethics, and he does classical Greek and Roman philosophy. He's a virtue ethicist. But yeah, his chats, you get to talk about, all the different varieties of like the good ways to live, which is a huge amount. And we have so many options nowadays, and you get to, experience some of the more fun theories over there. It's not exactly... I'm not particularly, I don't think I'm particularly entertaining in terms of like the fun sorts of ways of being. You go over to Aris's thing, you get to, talk about fun things people are up to and how they actually enjoy their lives. I'm like, I'm thinking about metaphysics again. It's like, yeah. Okay, so yeah. So this paper will try to answer the question. Thank you, Aris, for the link. The answer, I think, is yes. Given that every possible world is real, yes. See, this is what's happening. Every possible world is real. So we're using the realness. I don't know what the meaning of real is. here, but given that every possible world is real, I shouldn't feel lonely. There are many possible girls out there in worlds where modal realism is widely accepted. Some of the girls are single and pining for a boy in a world that isn't their own. Some of them are pining for a boy who fits exactly my description down to the smallest detail. Some of the worlds hold legions of girls who desire a boy from a world other than theirs who fit exactly my description. This is such, like, oh man. It all costs money. Says, I've determined that Iris is into watching humanity fall apart and be awful to each other while sipping on a 200k bottle of champagne that he acquires through nefarious means. That is like the least likely thing. It all costs money. Iris is also a published author. Yes, it is. It's true. Iris just got a book out. You know, the book, if you don't go, the book is right here. It's like, and you too can be the proud owner of The Virtue of Playfulness, Why Happy People Are Playful by Boomer Trujillo. Oh man. Yeah, if anyone out there does not realize, you can tell I am not much on the modal realism. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, and let this be a, like, Ivan, if I ever say anything overly shitty about the physicists and their possible worlds, the multiple quantum worlds, just refer back to this moment. I try to be, permissive about this stuff because I know the philosophers are just as ridiculous, if not way more ridiculous than the physicists. So if you ever hear me over criticizing you for this is one of the reasons. And it's like, just be like, remember when you had that paper about the guy who wanted a girlfriend in the possible world? It's like, yes. So yeah. I mean, Unreal Brian, that might be a good, what's it called? Chat GPT or one of the AI prompts. Fun paper nonetheless, despite finding modal realism incredulous. Yes. Viper says the deranged premise is why I picked it. Yeah, this just got fucking published, right? No, it's from 2008. Okay, so this is not new. But yeah, so it's still like, oh god, 16 years ago. But whatever. This is not an old piece of philosophy. This is pretty new. This is still contemporary philosophy. Okay, since I'm not good at dealing with lots of romantic relationships at once, I'll want to pick just one of the girls. It shouldn't be hard to find one who will suit my desires. The space of logical possibility abounds with kind, beautiful, intelligent girls who want a boy exactly like me. The notion of a closest possible world used in Lewis's analysis of counterfactuals might be useful in narrowing down the options. Another thing I hate. Closest possible world. None of you out there who's not an academic philosopher will care, but everyone knows there's no fucking thing as the closest possible world. It's just some goddamn made up shit to make it sound like, one logical possibility is more likely than another, which has nothing to, it makes no fucking sense when you're talking about modal reality because you have to be outside the system. There is no logical, there's no possibility relations between, logical worlds. There is no ranking of that. Like, it makes no fucking sense. Rant over. Everyone knows this, but they still use it because it's very convenient shit. Okay. Hey, Sinhababu, thanks for the lurk. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, good luck. Be safe. Don't get caught. There's plenty of fish in the multiverse. That's exactly what's going on here. Once I think out the characteristics that I want my girlfriend to have, maybe I'll just choose the closest possible world to ours where there's only one girl like that and who wants a boy like me. The girl from that world will be my girlfriend. There is a problem with this proposal, though. Not only is the space of possible worlds filled with girls like her who want a boy like me, it's filled with my counterpart who match her preferences. I'm not going to be the only one who fits the description that she has in mind. I may have to share her affections with some counterpart of mine in another possible world, and that's not something I want to do. It's not that I feel upset about my counterparts getting in on the action. I like him well enough, and I hope he finds his own girlfriend. I just want someone who will be in a one-to-one trans-world relationship with me. This use of trans is, the 2008 trans. Closest possible is Canada? Yeah. Unreal says, are male philosophers awkward horn dogs in every possible universe? Yes, unfortunately, Unreal. I can't just apply the closeness relation again on her side and give her the one among us who is closer to her world. Maybe the pluriverse is set up so that for every girl who is pining for an otherworldly boy exactly like me, there's a duplicate of mine whose world is closer to hers than mine is. Then my duplicates and not I will be picked by all of the possible girls. Yeah, so you like just because there's lots of possible women out there for you in other universes, there are also other instances of yourself in all these universes, and so all the possible girls may get with all the possible boys or whatever gender you choose, and so you're still alone because all the other worlds all the other worlds match up with the other worlds and never in your world. Yeah, trans world rise exactly. Yeah, so there's no guarantee that you'd actually get a partner because there's all the other instances of you in all the other possible worlds. Yeah. All right. Author says, I need a way in which possible girls can pick me out from my counterparts. One way would be for them to do something that picked out my world from all the other worlds. Maybe the girl I want is the one who desires a boy fitting exactly my description in a world exactly like mine. If characteristics uniquely picking out my world are in the content of her desire, I alone will be selected. Yeah, so not only you, but the universe you live in. The possible world. So they're not just choosing you, but that the universe you are in, they're like, that's the guy I want. Yeah, exactly, Unreal Brian. You're going to compete with your alternative you. So, I mean, we've had plenty of sci-fi stories where you and your clone show up in the same world and then, like, the romantic partner's confused or whatever. So we've had stories like this. It's not actually as out there as, like, it might sound. Like, we get that a lot. We've had plenty of that. I mean, it's on The Simpsons and whatever. For this to work, my girl needs to have an amazingly intricate desire. She wants the boy from a world that is exactly like mine down to the last subatomic particle. On Lewis's functionalism, it won't be right to attribute such a complex desire to her unless she engages in some kind of activity that makes it clear that her desire has exactly this content. It might take a long time for her to finish the activity, but that can be provided for. Viper says, my clone twice the man I am, 2 inches, yes. Yeah, and that's also the problem, that like there might be slightly better versions of yourself out there, but again, this author is picking the one that wants you the way you are, as you are. Perhaps she's immortal with eternally youthful beauty, spending each day singing out every fact about my world that differs from hers. Some of the facts are about me, but many of the other facts are included. She can translate between all of this world's microphysical properties and the macrophysical ones that they reduce, so she knows the facts about this world in the same kind of way that we know them. When she first told her friends that she was in love with an otherworldly philosopher, they responded with incredulous stares. But now that they see how happy she is, they're supportive and happy for her. Ivan's too sexy for it, yeah. You want to watch classic Jet Li, yeah. The new show on Apple, Dark Matter, does with the clone, came out a few weeks ago, yeah. Like, so, I mean, these ideas are, they're not that special, but like doing this in the modal realism world, that's why it's a philosophy paper. It's very clever to just do this sort of silly sci-fi thing using modal realism. Okay. But it's very silly. Okay. There's no reason for you to feel jealous, of course. There are a myriad of possible boys, girls, penguins, and talking donkeys whose affections have settled upon you. Yeah, you can still see this is 2008. You wouldn't, include talking donkeys. You'd say something else now, but you get the point. There is something out there that you want in a possible world that also wants you and exactly you. Udimini, I can't cancel a word in the paper. I'm sorry. I'll give you your points back later, but you can't cancel a word that's like in the paper I'm reading. So, I just can't do that. Choose among them as suits your preferences. Modal realism can be especially beneficial to people who believe that no actual individuals suit them. If you will be satisfied only by the love of a talking donkey, you might be depressed because no actual talking donkeys exist. Oh, when did Shrek come out? What year is Shrek? 2001. Yeah. So, okay, so that's fine. But, Shrek's in the zeitgeist. So that's why it's talking donkeys. Thank you, Vipers. Okay. So if you will be satisfied by the love of a talking donkey, you might be depressed because no actual talking donkeys exist. But in the Shrek world, and so Slather and Shrek in chat would remember this, that world has a talking donkey, and so there is a possible world out there. And like I've said, remember, this is not physical multiple worlds. This is logically possible multiple worlds. And so there is a world where donkeys speak. That's not a logical impossibility. That might be a current biological impossibility in our actual world, but logically that's fine. There's a world where donkeys are sentient and can speak. Exactly, Aristotle. Yes, exactly. Okay, but you can rest assured that there's a possible donkey who is reciting a full particle by particle description of all the differences between our world and his. He gets especially excited about braying out the parts that concern you. Now I have a way for this girl to pick me out uniquely, but how can I pick her out uniquely? There still might be a ring of equally close worlds containing girls with all the properties I have just specified. If you like the idea of being a Don Juan of the pluriverse, surrounded by a ring of otherworldly lovers, this might please you. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with that, but I feel that a one-to-one relationship will be the best salve for my loneliness. I can't pick her out from her counterparts as she picks me out from mine. However, I am mortal and I won't live long enough to select her uniquely by singing a complete description of all the differences between her world and mine. And remember, to pick out a unique person in a unique world, you have to specifically identify both the world and the person, which is difficult because all the worlds could be very similar, and so there might be extra people. Okay, but mortality will not keep me from my beloved. Each world in the ring is exhaustively described at the microphysical level by many different sets of atomic English senses. To end up with only one girl from the ring, I can stipulate that the girl I want is the one from the world that I picked out by the set of senses that it would come first if all of these sets were put in alphabetical order. I will call this the alphabetical stipulation. Yeah, so if you can sort them, then you just take one from the list. So as long as they are well sorted, it's fine. Yeah, Ivan, I'm not surprised. But yeah, so as I said, Ivan, if I ever give you too much crap for the multiple worlds, just be like philosophers, the modal realists. It's like, and I'm not a modal realist, but like the philosophers are always worse, always. Yeah, exactly, Diamond. Yeah. Well, that's what it is. If you can do the mathematics of this, and you want to know what it's really scary, you might not be able to see, but there's a footnote right there, or an end note. And I'm wondering if they're actually arguing the mathematics of like the stuff right at the end. I'm going to even go look. Yeah. They had to ask somebody else for it. So I bet there was because this is called choice theory. You need the axiom of choice to be able to pick from an infinite number of things. If you have an infinite number of things and there's nothing that distinguishes them, you need to you have to have them sorted in a certain way. And so you need to have some sort of sorting. And so they stipulate that it can be sorted. Yeah. You think he's going to reel it in? Let's email Josh Denver. No, do not be. Get his data. Yeah. All right. So there is a logical problem there, actually, because if you have an infinite number of worlds, picking one out is actually difficult if they're not sorted. So it's just a background logic issue. All right, you guys are arguing about stuffs. All right. Now I just have to pick the possible girl who has all the properties I've stipulated. To recap, in addition to being an immortal with eternally youthful beauty whom I would find extremely physically attractive and lovable, I will not enumerate her attractive and lovable properties here. She sings out a microphysical description of all the differences between my world and hers, including the facts about my presence, can translate between the microphysical properties and the macrophysical ones. Why didn't he just say that she's doing the alphabetical stipulation too? And she picks out the location wherever he's at. Could have done that. and often expresses her intense desire for the boy fitting my description in the closest world that fits the specifications in her song. Of all the closest worlds containing girls who fit this description, she is the one in the world that fits the alphabetical stipulation. Admittedly, I don't know exactly what her world is like, and I don't know much about her besides what is implied by my stipulation. I just know that it's the closest world to mine that fits a certain set of conditions. There is still one problem that I don't know how to deal with, which threatens to push me into a wildly promiscuous relationship. Perhaps the same possibilities are instantiated by many duplicate worlds. Lewis himself held that each possible world was instantiated by exactly one world, though he allowed that this might not be the case. Since my beloved and I would then have counterparts in identical worlds, the best I could hope for would be a promiscuous relationship on both sides involving countless possible people. Yeah, so even if you uniquely describe a single world, maybe there are just lots of those worlds. Maybe there's just like 17 of them. Maybe there's infinite number of them. Why not? It's interesting to note that while duplicate worlds will keep me from being the unique beloved of any possible girl, they reduce the impact of Robert Adams' objection that modal realism leads to indifference about good and evil in the actual world. On the assumption that there is exactly one world for every possibility, Adam asks, quote, what is wrong with actualizing evils since they will occur in some other possible world anyway if they don't occur in this one? End quote. As Mark Heller points out, if you rescue a drowning child instead of standing idly on the beach, it will still be the case that somebody in the pluriverse stands idly by on the beach just as you would have. Only thus will the gap in modal space be filled, giving one world per possibility. But suppose there can be more than one world per possibility, and there are already worlds that will instantiate the rescue and worlds that will instantiate the drowning. If you make your world and another rescue world another rescue world rather than another drowning world, you will make it the case that fewer children drown in the pluriverse. Why? Why, philosophers? Why? This will require a non-causal way of making something the case, but fortunately, Lewis's view allows for things to be made the case non-causally. For example, the fact that all bachelors in the pluriverse are unmarried non-causally makes it the case that necessarily bachelors are unmarried. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If you want to define terms, you can say, look, what the term means is how things are in like the logical space. And so you're defining bachelor by all the worlds where they're unmarried and male. That's what we're calling those worlds where those people are bachelors. So there's a semantic piece to this. And so that's where we're getting that. Okay, so if a plenitude of duplicate worlds blocks trans-world monogamy, at least it preserves the impermissibility of moral indifference. There is a way to get love letters from your possible girlfriend. Of course, you can't see the paper that she's writing on since worlds are causally isolated. Still, you can know what she's writing to you. The way to do this is to include an extra stipulation when you choose your possible girlfriend. Stipulate that you want a girl who will write to you exactly those words which you write in a particular notebook. Then, when you want to hear from her, use the notebook to write the words that you want to hear from her. When you write responses to her, she'll get them. She has knowledge of every feature of your world that is absent from hers, and hence she knows what you wrote. Yeah, now you can see this is getting psycho. This is one of those, she's writing exactly what you want her to write in the way you want her to write. This is one of those, what was it? Where people would try to claim that their brain dead relatives were communicating through to them, and they were like, only they could understand like the movements. Like, this is like weird. Viper says, Josh Dever is a professor of philosophy at the University of Texas Austin and professorial fellow at the ARC Philosophical Research Center at the University of St. Andrews. Yeah, I swear I've had this conversation before. It's a psychobabble from an LSD trip. Yeah, maybe. Psycho, yes. Fiction writing, brilliant. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not an unentertaining paper. And it's like, okay. Yeah. Okay, while relationships with possible girls involve a broadening of my romantic horizons, some suggest that I'm still being too narrow-minded. They would have me go beyond the Lewisian framework and consider relationships with impossible girls. I know where this is going. Oh, dear Lord. These girls inhabit impossible worlds where some propositions are both true and false. Impossible girls have some appealing features. In an impossible girl's world, it can be true and false that she kissed me. In any possible girl's world, and in my world, it is merely false that she kissed me. A modal realist interested in otherworldly kisses and willing, unlike Lewis, to tolerate concrete impossibilia, might find what he wants in a relationship with an impossible girl. Okay. Are you saying that you are not power consistent? I am more power complete than power consistent. I generally am friendly with the power consistent folks. Yeah, like my logics are not classical that I use. So yeah, I don't do quantum ethics, but like, yes, I am closer to that side of logic than not. I'm not a classical logician. So the idea is that just because you didn't get kissed in this world doesn't mean that you didn't get kissed and not kissed. Like, that would be in the realm of possibility. So yeah. Luke says, the idea is that, look, in this world you didn't get kissed, but in the other world you could be kissed and not kissed. So this could be sort of an impossible world where you only, while you only experienced a not kissed, there could be a world where you're also getting kissed. So yeah. Yeah. And this is like the most lonely, sad boy philosophy I've ever heard. I know, Anne. It's like ridiculous. Just stop overthinking stuff and be nice to somebody. Yeah. Since I hope this is going the direction there are in P. This is getting uncomfortable. A phonetic explanation. I have no idea. Ethics being a quantum property makes you sick. Yeah, I mean, most people do not make things good and not good in ethics. That's kind of not the point. You can do it in logic for various reasons, like solving paradoxes, or, in database theory, you need to have inconsistent data. Like, there's a lot of good reasons for having logics that countenance things that are both true and false, or neither true and false, or different, like, mixes of that. So that's a different discussion from this. This one is just, abusing the logic so that the guy can say he's been kissed. Okay. Oh, you meant, okay, Sinister Max. Yeah, I don't think that's where they were going, but, yeah. Viper says, move over Schrodinger's cat. This guy's writing about Schrodinger's pussy. Yes, Vipers, that's exactly where we're going. Some guys need to understand that being creepy scares girls. We're programmed to escape guys who are weird. Yeah, I know. It's just, we're gonna get into some more, interesting stuff next. I don't think it's gonna be that bad, though. This still is in a big philosophy journal. It is an implication, but it's not specific to this paper. In all the possible worlds, there's bad things that happen. That's fine. What this person's saying is that you're talking about the possible worlds that are most like the actual world. And so the ones that are most like the actual world for you are the ones where you're basically yourself. And so if there's any possibility of you doing shitty things in this world, well, then they'll exist in other possible worlds. But as long as you're a decent person here, there's no real implication that anything bad's going to happen. Because it's not a necessary implication. Because you're talking about what's called closest possible worlds, where the world is most like yourself. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah, and if, like, you're being creepy in all the possible worlds, then you get to do all the creepy stuff in all the possible worlds. Like, because you made different choices there. But if you are the normal, decent people that you are in my chat, then there is no problem because you wouldn't have been doing creepy stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Nerdy, cute. Yeah, all the nerdy, cutesy ways. That's the only creepy stuff we do here when you're just being nerdy and geeky and cute. Okay. Author says, at first I had some major hang-ups about impossible girls. If it's correct to apply classical logic to impossible worlds, everything will be both true and false and the inhabitants of these worlds. For example, impossible girls will have and will not have pigtails, nose piercings, and tentacles. I must leave girls of whom everything is true and false to boys with less conventional taste than mine. Fortunately for the impossible girls, there are many such boys in impossible worlds, though it's also true that there aren't. Yeah, that too. It all costs money. But if a paraconsistent logic is the correct one to apply to impossible worlds, my hangups are unwarranted. Under a paraconsistent logic, the presence of an inconsistency in the world, say the fact that my possible girlfriend was kissed by me, even though she wasn't, won't imply the truth and falsity of everything. For example, that she has and does not have tentacles. If you're depressed by the fact that no possible girls are being kissed by you, and you'd be happy for some contradictory otherworld kissing, impossible girls might be the way to go. Now we'll consider some objections. The first one is inspired by Lewis's comments that we shouldn't worry about suffering in merely possible worlds. That is, in possible worlds that aren't actual. He talks about how virtuous dispositions, as traditionally conceived, concern only actual people. According to him, we'd be needlessly changing our practices if we extended them to non-actual people. Similarly, one might object that love is restricted to our world mates. Okay. Can you just control F tentacles and skip those philosophy papers? Eudaimonia, we probably would choose them just for the entertainment factor. Many possible worlds have Japanese tentacle porn. I'm sure that's why that got brought up here. Unreal Brian. Yeah. I mean, the author does have a point. If you're using certain logics that allow for, like, things to be true and false, it doesn't mean everything is true or false. It just, the fact that they are getting to pick and choose what they want is a little ad hoc, but that's the whole paper, is that you get to make up your fantasy girl that lives in a possible world and she loves you and only you. It's like, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, if you want your fantasy girl to have tentacles, it is a logical possibility. It may not be a physical one, but it is a logical possibility. It probably is a physical one too. But like, it's very easy in modal realism to be like, my fantasy girl is like half tentacle, and like we can just do tentacle porn. It's like, that's fine in terms of logic and philosophy. Okay. While relationships with merely possible people are unusual, they're more continuous with common practice than they might seem. Prevailing attitudes towards actual and possible people differ mainly because of the prevailing opinion that actual people are the only real people. Reality, not actuality, does the work. If we become convinced that possible people are real too, we shouldn't regard them differently from how we regard faraway actual people. I'm interested in real girls, and if Lewis convinces me that some non-actual ones like me, I'm going to get excited about them. Udemy says, you have a deadpan that would shame even still Stephen Colbert, Sacha Cohen. Udemy, like, if you deal with philosophy long enough and like go to Aris's chat, like, people ask him crazy things. I deal with crazy thoughts. Like, this is par for the course. Like, it just is. Like, someone asked Aris to like lick his fingers the other day, and he was like, go right the fuck ahead. Like, please do. It's like, it's not a, it's like, people aren't normally asking me that question, but like, yeah, it's like, that is the proper way to respond. This is philosophy. It's just, everything is like, unless you're talking about really heinous shit, everything goes in philosophy for the most part. Okay. One might also wonder whether a trans-world relationship without the possibility of causal interaction can count as love. While most loving relationships involve causal interaction, it's hard to see why this is a necessary condition of love. If I'm intricate enough in setting up my stipulations, I can find someone with the whole range of endearing, noble, and attractive features that would cause me to fall in love. Lewis's view allows that I can have attitudes towards merely possible individuals, and that the possible individuals can have similar attitudes towards me. Robert Kraut has argued that loving someone rather than loving some attribute of a person is a de re attitude that takes the person as its object. Yeah, so you're loving the actual thing that the person is. While the person's attributes can certainly cause me to fall in love with them, the person must be the de re, the substantial object of my attitude, in order for me to love them. This is not a problem for trans world love. While I initially picked out my possible girlfriend using her attributes and the attributes of her world, in the future I can use this as a reference-fixing description and have a de re attitude towards her. Okay, none of you need to care about that, but that's cutesy in terms of philosophy. There is one more issue to consider. With luck, at some point, I'll find an actual girlfriend. Since I don't want to be unfaithful, I'll have to break up with my possible girlfriend if I want to enter into an actual relationship. One might criticize me for this. My possible girlfriend is spending eons of her life singing out about me in my world. Isn't it heartless to break up with someone who has so much invested in a relationship? At all cost money says, I like to ask streamers, how many fingers can you fit in your holes, and what holes fit how many fingers? I don't know at all cost money. Usually I don't worry about these things. Ara says, this is all just attraction without responsibility or any change in personal attitude or action. A neckbeard's dream. Yeah, I mean, you're imagining your ideal girlfriend, and then you're using a trick of modal realism or philosophy of that logic to say that she is real. And it's like, okay, you have just imagined up your ideal girl. And what was that movie, Pixels, with the Adam Sandler flick? I kind of like that one, where his friend has imagined the perfect girlfriend that was like a video game girl, and she just shows up magically one day. It's like, this is a immature way of understanding reality. Like, it's just not like, it's sort of inhuman. It's just very, you're taking some fantasy over the real world. It's hardcore existential reach. Yeah. You dislike this guy. I don't trust him. Yeah. You're a possible girl. Yeah. Everyone's possible on the internet. Yeah. Yeah. It's the old, everyone's a boy on the internet. Everyone's possible on the internet. Yeah. Weird science. Yeah. Theoretically this is true, but then so what? It doesn't matter at all. Yeah, I mean, if you are a hardcore, and I mean, you'd have to believe the theory of modal realism like completely, then this might have draw on you. Like, it might mean something to you, but I don't know of anyone that is like that hardcore. It's all just sort of very fantasy everything. Yeah. Like, you're all just, this is someone you've made up that loves every bit of you, and that you can write in a notebook. They write the exact right thing that you want them to write. Now, of course, Aris, you would probably, there's definitely some virtue criticism here, because wouldn't there be some sort of virtue of playfulness, of randomness, of spontaneity? That's what I was thinking of. There's definitely some sort of spontaneity that you have in a relationship that you would not be getting when you're just on your own like this. So, yeah, you need other people to do spontaneity. So there would be a virtue ethics criticism here. A quote, but actual girls are mysterious to me in so many ways. Yeah, that's what happens when you get to make them up, and they're like, your ideal girl is just the way they are, because you not mysterious to you because you made them the fuck up. You found another control F target. Good, yeah. Ann says, I don't see the use of thinking about the could have beens in theoretical realities. It's not going to have any influence on the quality of my reality, so I might as well believe in unicorns. Well, that's exactly what this person's saying. It gives them comfort because they believe that the person that they're like, if you thought unicorns were real, you just can't have access to them, but you really like them, then it's like, well, if you're that sort of delusional, then you have deluded yourself, and you can feel good in your delusion. That's literally what's going on. Okay. So this is what happens if you actually find someone and then you have to break up with your imaginary girlfriend. This is not as big a problem as it seems, since all the facts about my doings will be in my possible girlfriend's song. There are ways that my world differs from hers. The fact that I'm destined to break up with her will be something she knows from the outset. She could have chosen a more permanent boyfriend from among my counterparts. It's mysterious why she still chose me. But actual girls are mysterious to me in many ways, and there's no reason why possible girls would be any different. Do the arguments in this paper, if sound, give anyone reason to accept modal realism? No, at least if you don't count pragmatic reasons for belief. Pragmatic considerations aside, beliefs aren't justified by the good consequences of believing. Many philosophers who are impressed by Lewis's theory still think that a more deflationary view about possible worlds is the right way to go. Nothing I have written gives them any reason to change their minds. Harris says, this is a fun game if you keep it a game, but to be philosophically serious or connected to real life, you have to equivocate on the meaning of real. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're doing in modal realism. They have to use the word real in a way that is convenient to their theory, but it's not real like the actual world. So you have real world and actual world, and they separate those things. And so the actual world is an indexical to this possible world, but then you have to treat every other possible world as just as real, even though they aren't actual. So yeah, you're equivocating on real and actual, and this is like standard practice. If it's a fantasy, great, I love them, but as such, yeah, it's just stupid. Harris says, that said, I wonder what would happen in this paper if we exchanged ideal girlfriend for perfectly just world or suitably just, if we're going to talk about the psychological implications. Yeah, so if you want to talk about something like, well, is there a possible world where everything is just like a utopia? You know, I'm sure people have discussed like utopic possible worlds. That sounds like something that has definitely been discussed. And so how far are we from the utopic possible world, like the utopic possible world? How far are we off, like our world and the, best of all possible worlds? Yeah, I mean, it's a fantasy, but it's just, it's going back to the best of all possible worlds. It's not a new concept. So it's like, well, is the best of all possible worlds in the set of all possible worlds? Sure, just as the best possible girlfriend is in the set of all possible worlds too. So it's like, yeah. But I don't see, I don't know if there'd be anything, the problem is saying that, it makes it sound like there's nothing to it. There's nothing that deep. And, ipso facto, there's nothing that deep about this either, Inspector Diameter, can the possible worlds exchange information between themselves? No. They do not causally interact. Now, this author, you are allowed to stipulate that the things you write in a book will be the exact same things that your possible girlfriend will write in her notebook. But again, there's no causal thing. It just happens to be that whatever you want her to write is what she writes. But that is coincidental, not causally related. So no, the answer is there is no information exchange whatsoever. So, okay. Yeah, so no one's going to be convinced if you already didn't believe in modal realism by this, except through some vast delusion of pragmatism that what you want to believe is true actually is true. But they know this. All right. Author says, however, I will confess that when I first wrote this paper, the arguments in it irrationally caused me to accept modal realism, albeit in what Lewis calls a compartmentalized way. Unreal says, the ontological argument, the best possible girlfriend exists in and is in fact my girlfriend because the best possible girlfriend has the properties of existing and being my girlfriend. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's exactly what this author is saying right here. They really they like the idea so much that they kind of started to believe in it. Even in the dreaming, you must put in the effort in the real. Yeah. So this person decided this was such a good idea that they were going to believe it. When engaging in philosophical reflections on modality, I've always rejected Lewis's modal realism, but there were times when I wasn't thinking about philosophy and started to feel lonely. Then I thought of my possible girlfriend and smiled at the thought of someone out there who loved me and desired to be loved by me. In quick succession, I realized that she knew I was thinking of her. After all, she knew every temporal part of me down to a microphysical description. She knew everything I was saying and doing. I felt more motivated to act like a worthy man. My posture straightened. I came to believe that she was happy about my writing this paper, so I wrote more of it. From a functionalist perspective, it would have been reasonable to attribute a belief to me, the belief that someone merely possible but real who loved me was aware of what I was doing. In allowing for merely possible individuals who are real as me, this belief presupposed modal realism and marked me as someone who had been seduced to Lewis theory. Unreal Brian says, modal realism. There were times I was so lonesome I took some comfort there. Yes. Exactly, Unreal Brian. That's not the flex this guy thinks it is. That's not how you want to do stuff. And now we get to rate the paper. Please, everyone in chat, we've got a few people here still that this is not scared off. You are now free to rate the paper. The way we do it is we use the emotes you see in chat below. You have to spell them correctly with a correct capitalization. So if you thought this was fun and had fun ideas, made the brain dance, then you write brain dance. For big claims that shrivel up, Nog grapes. For navel gazing, only for academics. That's that. Or Nog Ouroboros for deeper ancient ideas. Nog Scream for existential or artistic drama. I mean, this has existential implications. Nog Turd, all style, no substance. And remember, you can reuse emotes. It matters. And Nog slicing and dicing arguments. So, to be fair, this was, they presented some technical arguments in modal realism. They, stuck to their guns. I don't know if it shriveled up, but yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of turds, and I think that's fair. And and there's the global vote yay, vote may, and the my vote meh. So what are we gonna go with this? Yeah, so we're gonna go with this at least had the entertainment factor. So we're gonna go with a vote. Oh shit. Meh. And brain dance because it was kind of like fun, but we're gonna have to go with a few nog turds on this. This was all like, it's like, yeah, Rexler liked it. Cool. I'm happy someone thought it was good. Yeah, and you know what? Let's give it an existential true. Nog scream. So yeah. Luke, they are global emotes. So they are, in some sense, the nays and the yays, they just cover everything. So they're not too specific on what exactly the yay and the nay is. Thank you, Sinhababu, for rating the paper. Inspector Diamer, thank you. Rexler, who else we have? Unreal Brian, Vipers, Aris, It All Costs Money, Luke, and yeah. Yeah, the premise is why I went meh instead of nay. Yeah, like this person got published in a top philosophy journal. This is a silly paper. Yeah. I mean, it's silly, but it's entertaining and it does explain modal realism. I mean, personally, I think this is more a reductio ad absurdum for modal realism than it is a supporting of modal realism. Like, this person thinks this is like a good way that, like, in their dark moment, modal realism helped them. I think they're being delusional, and so reductio ad absurdum, like, this is not how you want to be. Cost for short, if you do not mind. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it all costs money, but, like, it's sort of like, when I'm streaming, don't expect me to remember shit. Liked it in the goofy sort of way. Yeah, that's fine, Rexler. Like, that's fine. You still don't get modal. Modal means all the possible worlds, but it's modal is the way it's used in philosophy in terms of modal realism is in all the different logical possibilities, which is wider than physical, like, possible worlds. So if you got multiple worlds in quantum physics, then you have all the different, like, physical possible outcomes, like a spin up, spin down. In logic, like modal realism, that means you have not only all of that physics, but physics where the constants in the universe are slightly different, so that the laws of physics are completely different in all those worlds. So you've got, like, infinity of different physics. Not just you have all of our physics and all the other physics possible, all the other possibilities that are logically possible. And even this person even talked about power consistent impossible worlds. So now you not only are the things possible, but they're also impossible. So you can have, like, impossible laws of physics where there's things in the same place at the same time, like two different things in the same place at the same time. Like, so you have infinite, like, just huge numbers of worlds. But that's what modal is. You find modal realism kind of crazy, but you enjoyed the paper? Fine. Yes, read as a joke of reductio, it's brilliant. Yeah. The problem is I don't actually think they were doing that, Aris. So, yeah. All right, I think everyone got in. We've got 60 seconds to get back in. 60 seconds, let's get your argument in. Wait, so philosophical make-believe? Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Now, this one, The Immorality of Modal Realism, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Let the Children Drown. That is a great title. That's in Phil Studies, and that was on they referenced this, which was kind of interesting. So that's not a bad thing. Email Josh and find out if it's a joke. I am not going to email. This is not Josh. Josh was someone referenced. This is Neil Sinhababu. Sorry if I fucking up your name. Sinhababu. So I guess they're, yeah, I don't know how to say it. Sinhababu. But yeah. So yeah, Josh was someone who was just, that helped out Neil, which is fine. To me, it read like they were having fun. Yes. Like, I don't hate the paper, but, like, it's just, it's silly. And that's okay for some philosophy too. This is just more of a silly paper, a little bit of a fun paper, but it's what it is. You thought the author was having fun? They were having fun. The problem is just, am I going to tell people to read this? No. It's like, all right. Like, you'd have to tell people to read this as sort of you want to read a silly paper and get flavor of what modal realism entails, then read this. Now, the downside is it's kind of creepy. It's like, all right, we're making up all these worlds and stuff like that. But that was actually what I was just bringing up, was the ethics in other possible worlds. And chat brought that up too. There's weird ethics when you're talking about other worlds as real. So it's a thing. But were we having fun? I believe we were not. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't mind reading silly stuff. I just don't like it's what sort of good philosophy was here. You guys got to learn about modal realism in this paper. And as Ara said, as a reductio ad absurdum of modal realism, this kind of did a little work for me. Like, I could say, hey, you want to know how ridiculous modal realism is? It kind of implies this weird argument right here. I find this argument weird. Now, if you are a lonely, sad philosopher and you're looking for a partner, maybe this is good for you. But that's a problem with being a lonely, sad philosopher. That's not how you should be doing philosophy as a lonely, sad person, because that is you're not going to do anything other than being lonely and sad, which is going on here. Ara says this is A-tier philosophy pub banter. Yeah, that's the best thing about it. Ann says not a waste. I like seeing what's out there. Yeah, it's not a complete waste. It isn't. It got a brain dance out of me. That's what it was. It still got a little bit of positive, even though I think it's all So the problem here, this is a fair thing. The problem here wasn't the writing of this paper. The problem here is modal realism. They didn't fuck up modal realism. They wrote a nice paper in modal realism. It's just so ridiculous. So maybe we're being a little unfair to the author here, because it's not, even though I think they actually believe what they wrote. Even though they believe what they wrote, they are within a major, theory of philosophy, and they just took it to the extreme a bit. It all costs money. Says, I sincerely am disappointed with philosophy. If that's the trend, I could argue that the brownies are the only true source of happiness, but only in this imaginary world, I bet, and that's why, and be serious about it as long as I cite some sources. I mean, again, what's good about this here for our discussion is y'all got to learn about modal realism. Congratulations, you learned something about analytic philosophy. Was it a good thing? I don't know, but you got to learn something about analytic philosophy. Eudaimonia says, the direction they took it was tentacles and quantum kisses. Yes. I mean, not the worst way to go, of course. This provides nothing of value to the contribution of human understanding. I'd actually disagree with that. This is not much, but it wasn't there. We've read worse papers. We've read much worse papers. It all costs money. Yeah, Vipers. Yeah, exactly, Vipers. Wait to see the rest of the shit we've read. The rest of the crap that gets published. Yeah. Exactly. So even in the negative, at least this made a stark distinction on maybe you should avoid modal realism if you don't like consequences like this.